1 second early. Nailed it.
Although I hit go live, and now I think I gotta hit the pre-show. Oh, let's send these out on our socials and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do the promotion.
The usual, where we grab our camera and go, that.
Right? I'm going to click here.
I forget that they can't hear me on the thing.
Where's my program window?
It's that time again.
Ooh.
Ba-da-da-da-da. I just almost sent that to you. That doesn't help.
That would not help too much. All right, let's see.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
Create a story. Vlogpastors Podcast. We are back. We are live. We're on YouTube. You need to be here as well. So, hey, head on over. Come see us because we're hanging out, at least for the next hour or so.
Pastors.
Let's see. I think I can add a link, and I'm just going to hit https:// vlogpastors.com. That should work. Done. And I'll go ahead and share that because we can do that. Oh, so what I was thinking, Jarrod, and hey, we got Dustin Damesworth hanging out in the chat.
Hey, Dustin.
Dustin, good to see you. It's been way too long since we have actually been live and on time. Technically,
1 second early.
early.
Yep, count it.
No, I was sitting here thinking, I've got that coffee break thing.
Yes.
One of these days, when we know that we're going to need a Wednesday off, I think what we should do is either like the Wednesday prior or the Wednesday prior to that, we'll do like back-to-back episodes. And so we'll do like an extra long live stream. And then I'll just build it out to where we've got a new intro. And then we can put that coffee break in between. So it's our coffee and potty break. And then everybody can listen to the elevator music in between show recordings.
I love it. I get used to it, man. It's kind of like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of get in the flow.
You know, I have another version for this, but I don't like it as much. So there's just something about this one that I like just a little bit more. So I figure we'll do that. And I think we're going to test it, but I think I've got all of the, the thingamajiggers and the whatchamacallits and the whoozadids.
And the whoozadids. You can't leave out a whoozadid.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I'm also going to try to do. I think, if I understand this correctly, I'm doing something live, which I probably shouldn't do because I might break the show.
No.
Which means I should definitely do it.
As long as it's not the audio.
I'm not messing with the audio. What I'm trying to do is, you can still only see just the regular pre-show thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is to build out our ticker. I forgot to do that ahead of time, and Ecamm gives you the option where you can go to preview mode, and so preview mode lets me mess with everything on the back end without adjusting stuff on that end. So what were we talking about?
I say show them. Show the whole thing.
Yeah, but then I'll mess up the countdown and everything like that.
So you're going to have to wait for the reel, like for the live show, or not going to be able to do it?
Oh, I'm doing it now. Nobody's just going to, they're not going to be able to see what I'm doing.
Because it would mess it up. That's the part that'll mess it up. Okay.
I think.
Okay.
It could mess it up altogether, but we'll find out. All right. So today, what are we adding to the ticker in today's show?
Let's see who's in the chat. Hey, Dustin, what you got going on, my man? What are you doing today? Catch us up. It's been a minute.
Chatting about the social media impact of the Asbury awakening.
Just don't say January 6th.
And we're Also, ooh, Dustin's working on some websites today.
Missed it. Where is it? Yes.
I don't have it popped up because I'm doing the thingamajigger. We're also going to be...
I need to send you my website.
Talking AI. And
if you're fixing things.
Our thinking on
Do.
all of the stuff and things. Oh, and Jarrod told Joshua not to mention January 6th.
Seriously, you are gonna get us. Nah, whatever. I've warned you.
You don't care, do you?
I don't care. I so don't care anymore. Let's do it. Are you allowed to say?
Say what?
Dustin? Dustin's in the chat.
He's chatting.
Dustin says that's the company that I work for because he's working on websites today. Where does he work? Meh. Nice one.
Oh, the meh coffee cup? Yes, it's meh today.
Have you tried the gallon size since last week? The giant
I have not.
coffee cup that you had?
I have not. Okay, so
I
what I
see
was
that.
thinking...
I want to see you fill that up one day. Like, are you gonna go straw? Or are you gonna just try and?
I think I have to go
manhandle?
straw.
I could just see you double fisting that thing, like. Ah.
Yep, I don't think I have any choice but to go 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because doing that big thing, I think it would be so distracting because on camera you would just see the bottom of the mug all the time every time I try to take a drink. So it wouldn't be good. And as usual, drop your comments and topic ideas in the chat. We may just get to them.
I got you.
Save.
I got you, Dustin. Enjoy that little trip right there. It's fun. So same church that you're working for right now. Looks like you're transitioning. Can you dial me down a little bit, or do I need to do that on this end?
Dial you down a little bit, like on what?
Yeah, like this week it's pretty loud.
The music?
Yeah.
How's that?
That's better for me. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know. It may have reset to a different thing, or... Oh, it probably did. Because you know what I think I did on the last one? Like, when I had it built in a different scene, I think I may have had on the audio some setting. I probably did. I'm trying to see how would I have done that?
It's fine now. It was just a smidge high for... And maybe it's like that all the time. I just, for some reason this week, I'm sensitive to it.
No, it's probably not. Oh, wait. I know where it's at. Oh, there it is. Settings. Here, I gotta move this up.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll put that down at like 50 there. That's what it was. So I've got this. There's the good thing and the bad thing about Ecamm. Good thing, lots of features. Bad thing, so many features that I forget where everything's at. And when I build out a new scene, it's like one of those little features that I don't use that often. And that's exactly what it was. So I had like the sound effect for if we're watching something, it's turned up so we can see it. But in my actual scene, it shows the audio like up here. And there's a little tool wheel, gear wheel, that I can click on it and it'll let me bring the volume down per scene. So, anywho, 8 seconds and we're rolling straight into the intro.
Cool. 1, 0.
Welcome to the Vlogpastors Podcast, a podcast all about the stories and strategies of sharing God's love in the digital world. Now, here are two pastors that love to put a camera in their face and walk around in public. They are the Bill and Ted of digital ministry, Jarrod Brown and Joshua Verwers.
That's right, I am Joshua Verwers.
And I'm Jarrod Brown.
And you're watching the Vlogpastors Podcast, or maybe listening to the Vlogpastors Podcast. Episode number, do you remember, Jarrod?
72.
72.
Is that right?
That means we have collectively been doing it for 2 years, or not quite 2 years. I can't do math. Math is hard. Apparently, well over a year and a half, something like that. We're getting close.
I'm just pumped that I knew the number.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time ever.
Right? You had it on the ball. And on today's episode, we're picking up from a conversation that we had last week. Last week, we were talking about the Asbury revival, the Asbury outpouring, the Asbury awakening. And I said that I wanted to think about and maybe have you and I discuss a little bit, if we could, what our thoughts are on the impact that social media has on it. But I'm also thinking that what I would like to do in addition to that and talking about it is you and I both in the last 3 months, we have made like one video each, and it was on artificial intelligence.
Right. Yes. I thought we were going to catch some shade right there. I'm like, I'm already feeling bad about it. So yeah.
So am I, especially after last week where I was mentioning, hey, there's going to be a lot more coming out of you, and then all of a sudden, there's not a lot more coming out of us.
No,
and
none of
I was even hoping this morning to do it, and then I realized, wait, we got a podcast thing. I wonder how that's been doing over on Anchor, and I realized that the prior 2 episodes, even to last week, so the last 3 episodes, have not been uploaded. And at the beginning of the episode, I said, if you're listening to this, that meant I actually had the intestinal fortitude to post it rather than to hide it and take it down. And speaking about intestinal fortitude to post it, you told me not to mention a specific date of January 6th, and
bit of a hot topic. Bit of a hot take. If you,
I'm not going to mention it because you told me not to mention it. So I
will
say nothing about January 6th. I will say nothing about tapes. I will say nothing about video suppression. I will say nothing about
finding truth.
The evidence.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will say nothing about presenting all of the information and letting the general public make their own informed decision. I will say nothing about any of that.
Make sure you hit every branch on the way down. Push all the buttons and find all the triggers, okay? Because you're batting 1,000 for me.
Yeah, I figure, hey, I'm not going to say anything. I shouldn't have to say anything. I don't want to say anything. You can't make me say anything, so I'm not going to say anything.
Not gotta.
I might say something. But, hey, before we get to Asbury and the social media impact, how you doing? How you been?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. As you'll notice, I got a lot accomplished last week, but not in video form. So nothing. I was just doing this. This is me, not my set. Just me. I worked on a lot individually. I got a lot of projects again done around the house, but not so much done in video. So been pretty good. Just lagging, and I'm feeling it today. It's like, oh, I should have got a video out. Yeah. And it's probably not looking good for next week. Let's just be honest about it. I'm in a groove. What about you, man?
I am holding onto the hope that I will actually record something. Everything is set up. The next video I plan on releasing is not going to be a vlog, walking, talking, venturing out, especially because I would like to do it today and it's raining out and I'm not taking the camera outside. And everything's set up and I just don't want to. So instead, it will be my own version of a vlog, and by vlog I mean video log, so video documentary of my thoughts and my musings on whatever I decide. And hopefully I'll record that. Hopefully I'm holding out hope that I'll record it, edit it, and get it uploaded sometime before we meet next week.
So after teasing you last week about the buckets, I found this week that I'm stuck because of buckets. I
You can't
have
figure out the
videos.
buckets.
Well, I have videos that are created
Mhm.
that could be released if you just wanted content, but that's not what I want. I don't want to just put out content. Like it no longer is a part of where I would like to go in the future. So I've got this stuff that's made, edited, produced, like it's ready to rock,
Yeah.
but I can't. I doesn't fit, and
Yeah.
I want to make some other stuff. I can't just make a vlog anyway. So I'm stuck in this whole thing of like, how am I going to make what I want to eventually start making right now? Because it doesn't fit in any of the buckets that are ready to go. So
Yep.
that's where I'm stuck, man. I'm so sorry for teasing you last week about he can't move because of his buckets.
No,
Well,
but you're
he
spot
can't
on.
move because of his buckets.
I can't move because of my buckets. I think I might have figured out the buckets. I also, what was I listening to the other day? I think it was the Think Media podcast, and it was Sean, Omar, and who's the other one I'm thinking of? Oh man, Nolan.
Don't know him.
So those three were just kind of chatting, and they were doing like a underrated, overrated, or properly rated, which was really cool to hear that and to hear their take on it. Because instead of saying it's good or bad, it's like, is it overrated, underrated, properly rated? And they were talking about second channels. And as everybody well knows, it has been well documented on any of my socials that I have
Confession
18
time.
channels. So I've probably got too many. And Sean was saying that multiple channels, or rather a second channel, is underrated for larger creators, and it is overrated for smaller
Ooh,
creators.
interesting.
Because if you're a smaller creator and you are creating a second channel, that means you haven't actually found enough of a focus for where your channel should be going.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't found your audience and you haven't dialed it in yet. And that was quite convicting. And it was also refreshing to hear like Nolan's take on it, because he's got a failed channel that he had tried and then applied everything with, Think Media, Sean, and the VRA, and all of a sudden has another channel that he does that is taken off because he was able to focus in. And hearing Omar's take on it as well, yeah, hands up.
The Video Rifle Association. What is VRA?
VRA, Video Ranking Academy.
Oh,
Aren't you a part of that? Didn't you take that?
I am not. So
I was thinking, what did you take from Sean's like years back?
I don't know. It's been a while. It's been years. So I
was
have this
thinking it was the
weird
VRA.
relationship with those guys. Full disclosure, I know we went to a conference of theirs, but
Yeah.
like I kind of love and dislike them at the same time. There's a part of me that loves them because there's a lot of like they catch me on ideas that I'm interested in or researching.
Right.
But I also kind of dislike the style. I dislike what it's not a thing on them. It's what it does to me. It's what the reaction is out of me whenever I start consuming their content. I find myself nitpicking and looking at stats and all that stuff. And it's like, oh. So I have a love-hate relationship with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of times with the YouTube experts that are out there, and I even can tend to get into this where I focus too much on the things that they're saying that are like keys to focus on. They've given so many thoughts and so many ideas, but they're reaching such a broad audience that for this person, they need to focus here. For that person, they need to focus here. For this one, they need to focus there. And I try to focus on all of it at the same time, which when my focus is spread that much, then my focus is not focus at all. And then I just set for 3 months and I don't make anything except for one video on artificial intelligence.
Man, it's a problem. It's not just for you, for me. Jesse and I are sitting down this morning, and she works for an organization, and I could really help them. By my own accounts,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, "This is what they need to do. They need to double down on this content right here, and here they need to make this, and this. Oh yeah, well I'm thinking about it. You, Jesse, you need to be making this, and this, and branching out in these videos. And then whenever I go to me, she's like, "Yeah, but what videos are you making?" I'm like,
Right? It's
I
so
have no
much
clue.
easier to give constructive feedback and even maybe constructive criticism to others when we're on the outside looking in towards them. But when we're on the inside, we're looking out. And so it's hard for us to then turn the eyeballs back on ourselves and see it. that's where I do appreciate the YouTube experts, because for me, it's looking towards them and hoping that they say something that is looking back towards me. Which there were a couple things that they said, actually, that Nolan had said. Nolan was saying that, and this was off of Sean, that when you're in the YouTube space, you've really got two avenues that you can go. You can go towards passion, or you can go towards profit. Are you wanting to make money off this thing, or are you wanting to just share about your passion? The best scenario is when you're doing both. You know what I mean? And so if you're doing both, are we actually still live and everything?
No clue. I'm just enjoying the show.
I'm just sitting here looking at it. It looks like for some reason, am I back or? Oh, okay. That's what it was. I'm looking over to the right on my screen, and it was like we're replaying our live, intro. And
Dustin
I'm like,
says, yeah.
I was looking at the right, and I saw Bill and Ted again. And I'm like, why is even Bill? Did we even do Bill and Ted this morning? We did do Bill and Ted this morning.
We did.
That's apparently how well I've been paying attention. Where was I? Squirrel. Oh, I know where we're at. So Nolan and Sean talking about, either passion or profit. Sean saying the best is when you do passion and profit. And to do that, and to do that well, that's where you have to look at what do you like talking about, what do you like making? Because if you're just in it for the profit, you're going to get bored with it. There's not going to be any passion. It's just a job. It's just a 9-to-5. Even if you are your own boss, you're still working for a boss, and it's going to drag on. But if you're only pursuing your passion, then you're only thinking about what you think about, and you're not really considering what the audience is going to want and what could be profitable to sustain your passion. So it's finding that balance. And it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And yes, I think I can probably, spend another 3 months trying to dissect that and figure out how that works. But then something that was really kind of an unlock with Nolan, and I think I briefly touched on this last week, but the podcast I listened to has been since this week. He was saying that what he did to really kind of find his passion profit combo, where he's got this more successful channel. I haven't even watched it, but it's something about basketball, because he's passionate about basketball, loves watching it, but he was making a channel on it. What he did was he went back through his YouTube feed and his watch, so his main page, and then his watch history. What are the videos that I'm watching? What am I actually interested in? What do I like to see? And then let's make content along those lines. And that was something that really kind of struck me, because it reinforced, I think, what I had mentioned early on in the episode last week. When it comes to vlogging, vlogging is just a video document of your life and your thoughts. I think Trey Van Camp talks about how King David's the OG vlogger, because of the Psalms and all of his writings. I would venture to say that Moses was actually the OG writer, seeing that the Pentateuch, documented his life and what he was learning. But I get where he's talking about. And King David had a lot of cool alliteration and eloquency in it, a lot more than Moses stumbling over his words. But vlogging, when I was really into the Casey Neistat stuff, it's because Casey was the end all be all. He's what I was watching all the time. I was binging that. Now I'm not binge watching that stuff. Part of it's because he's not there. Part of it's because there's nobody doing it like he was doing it that really kind of captures my attention. And that's what I should start making stuff that I enjoy watching, because there are going to be others that are like me, that have similar interests to me, which is then going to make us relatable. And it's going to be more about community rather than just, that producer audience type of a thing. So
100%. No,
yeah,
we're on the same journey, man. I've been breaking it down to, in my feed, in my scroll, what topics am I interested in? What am I clicking on? And then what kinds of thumbnails, even what kind of title structure. Just been kind of digging into this. I'm clicking on this for a reason. Why am I clicking on this? What do I find interesting? And it's really weird and educational when you slow down and go, oh, I clicked on that because I knew that person.
Yeah.
Or if there's a celebrity in a thumbnail, I'm like, I don't really, that I know and like, I'm already bought in. It's like, wow, I didn't even know this person or what this video is about. I don't really care about the subject. I will find it eventually, but I recognize what's Deadpool's name?
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Whoops. Ryan Reynolds. I think that dude is a fascinating human being. And
Yeah.
so if Ryan Reynolds is in a thumbnail, I'm gonna give it a longer pause, at least a
Right.
second look to go, Anyway, the
Yeah,
psyche behind
because
it all.
well, and then here's the other thing. It's like, what do I enjoy about Ryan Reynolds? And to me, here's the main reason. I've thought about this. I love pretty much anything that Ryan Reynolds does. I want to watch. I may not like it, but I want to see it.
Yep.
And a lot of that is because Ryan is not your typical actor, Hollywood star. He just does what he wants and says what he wants and acts the way he wants. And there's something freeing about that because he runs contrary to the norm. And that's kind of how I try to live my life, where I don't want, like, I know I'm not created like everybody else, so I don't want to be like everybody else. So I'm not going to act like everybody else. Inspiration, somebody has a certain way of doing things. Yeah, you pull and you draw from it, and they all add to experiences. But even when it comes to the YouTube, that's the thing that I look at for my content and going forward. What am I watching? What do I enjoy? Why do I enjoy it? Do I enjoy it because of the content, or do I enjoy it because of the format or the style, or what is it? So yeah, there's a lot of that I've just kind of been breaking down and thinking about, and then we'll see where we go. And the craziest part about it is so much of the videos that I've been watching are a lot of like people reacting to different TikTok videos. And that has just like polluted my feed. Like if somebody's reacting to TikTok videos in their genre or something, I get sucked into it and I watch it. So you can probably expect some reaction to TikTok videos coming soon.
Are you concerned at all that like you'll get started down a path like that and go, oh, I don't like reacting to TikTok videos. I've just built, say you have 100 people come over who want to watch you react to TikTok videos. And you're like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, so that is something I had thought about. And I thought the only way that I can do it is to make sure that it ties into the overall channel mission and my overall personal mission, that passion, which I want to be an encouraging Christian voice, a voice that encourages people to live out their faith.
Hallelujah.
And so that's the voice I want. So if the videos, like, and I'm sure, I guarantee if I go down that path of reacting to whatever it is, because I even did one where I was like reacting to worship fails. And it was like, I thought I wanted to do that, but I don't want to do that. And it was like, why? Because it wasn't as encouraging as I thought it could be.
Right.
And it's because of that it was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. So then I just avoided all of that together. But now I'm coming back around. It's like, I think I can do this in just a slightly different way. Like you're not going to see me reacting to church Karens, also known as Pharisees. Like that's not going to happen. At least I don't think it's going to happen. Who knows? Maybe. I mean, just like me not saying anything about January 6th, it might just happen.
It might just pop out.
So I don't know. I'm not as concerned about it because I'll pivot. I always pivot. If it works and it's going good, but I'll constantly be doing that thing that we do so well, where bring it back to the Lord. And it's like, okay, reevaluate. Hey, I just delivered this. I mean, I don't know if you do this. I do this even with my sermons, where I want some like real-time feedback from people. Yep. And then when I get home, it's like taking it to him and be like, did this hit? Did we hit the mark? Is this what you wanted? And a lot of times I don't have to ask that when I get home, because if I'm even at church and somebody comes up and it's like, okay, that's what he was trying to do. That's where he wanted to hit. We're good. But yeah, it's reevaluating and saying, is this meeting the goal and the mission? And from us, pastoral perspective, it is about that passion side of it. It's about the calling that we have. And so it's like, am I still doing that? And then at the same time, I want to have fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where it's like, I'm gonna play around with some stuff and we'll see. And maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. And I don't know. And maybe it's one of those where I have another Facebook profile video that I hate because it brings in a lot of people and I'm like, I ain't doing this anymore. I don't know.
Yep. Isn't that such an odd sensation to turn off a video that has tens of thousands of views and is drawing in people because it doesn't align with where you're at? I mean, like
Right.
it's you, but it has nothing to do. That was we've mentioned it several times. That was my coffee video. It's like that just reels people in droves. They
Yeah.
want to see that interview. They want to know about making coffee, and they want to know about how to make coffee
Yep.
at their home or their business or whatever. That's not what I like coffee, but that's a huge jump in order to harness social media and its impact and bring it over to ministry. So in
Right.
that vein, what did you think about social media's impact on the Asbury? And I don't want to get caught up in language here because I've spent the entire week talking with pastors redefining whether it's a revival, you know what I mean? Like whatever happens was happening.
The
might
easiest
still-
term for me to use for this that has been non-controversial to people, except for those that are like demanding that I call it a revival, which there hasn't been but like one of those. The term that I've used that everybody's pretty much accept is the Asbury outpouring. Because they recognize, yes, this is a move and an outpouring of the Holy Spirit. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. If you don't want to call it revival, whatever. We see it as revival, or we don't see it as revival, or we see it as an awakening. We see it as a whatever. Doesn't matter. So I've been using Asbury outpouring when I typically refer to it. My thoughts on the social media impact are a few. First, without social media, I don't think any of us would know anything about it. So I believe that for it to spread as quickly and as far as it did, that could only have been done through social media. Because I mean, I was trying to look and see what mainstream media was picking up on it. And the only reason that the few, like most mainstream didn't catch it, there were a couple that did. And most of it was local media that was catching it. But the mainstream, the only reason that they were catching it was because it was going viral on social media. And so because all of the eyeballs, all of the attention was on TikTok, on Twitter, on the social platforms, all of a sudden, media's looking at it and they're like, well, we got to find our next story. What's trending? Oh, wait, there's something going on in Asbury University. What is that? So to me, like the impact I think that social media had on it was huge. Like, I really believe that God was using that in a mighty way to reach and expand, to reach more eyeballs, to hit more people with it. That's my initial thoughts on it, was that it was so important because of the impact. The second thing that it kind of had me questioning was my own churchology when it comes to sharing social clips of those spiritual movements. Because I am one of those that, being in the Word of Faith movement, there are a lot of things that happened in the Word of Faith movement that us in that movement claim 100% is God. And there are so many that were on the outside looking in that were saying it's false, that it's demonic, that it is bad. And so that has let me build up a little bit of a guard, if you will, where I've just kind of, I don't know, I've kind of resisted a little bit. I've kind of held back for a second to not want to share those intense, intimate, really kind of, spiritual moments. I've really just held back on some of that personally. And because that's with our church where we don't do it. Like when we were doing live streams, those that were in the back that were running the camera were on strict orders that you do not start the stream until I'm up there and I get ready to start the message. And once I finish the message prayer, if we start to do anything after that, you end the stream. Anything that is before and after is in an intimate setting. We're not sharing it because I don't want to have to deal with the trolls. I don't want to have to deal with the haters. I don't want to have to do any explanation because some things that are by the Holy Spirit just can't be explained. You just have to experience it. That being said, I see everybody sharing what's going on at Asbury University, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, there were some haters, but I didn't even read most of the comments because I didn't care. Because what I saw and what I was distantly experiencing was powerful. And it was like, this is so much greater than my discomfort in how it's perceived. And so that's been a mental challenge that I've been going through. So I think it's been good in that sense because it's challenging my thinking. So how about you? What are your thoughts on that social impact when you start seeing the things floating around there? You start seeing demonic, manifestations, and
Amen.
You start seeing like all of this right here on your smartphone. It's like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been surprised, honestly. You and me talking here, I've been surprised with my reaction to it. Because we were just talking about passions and building social media around our passions and, where the balance is between that and income and all that stuff. But like, this is our passion, and there's an outpouring at bare minimum. There's an outpouring of the Spirit in that place, that body of believers. And I have yet to see an entire service from Asbury.
Right.
And what was surprising to me was that I actually cared more about the word of mouth than I did about the social media. Social media is going to be a part of it. There were clips, there's pictures of people being encountered. There were little nuggets that you would get that were highlighted and kind of cropped out. And I appreciated the people who did that because it was cool to see. You're not sitting through the whole session. But even as a pastor who hungers and thirsts for an outpouring to happen, here type of a thing, I didn't watch a lot of it, but I did feast like it was, daily manna type stuff on the stories that people came back who were there and in person. So the ones who drove out there were part of it, gave me, and I know them, and they gave me firsthand accounts of what they saw, what they felt, what they, how God encountered them. That was the stuff where I'm like, okay, there's a hush that falls upon my heart to go, come on. And then, and then what happened? And then what happened? Yeah. Then what did he do? Then what was it like? And so I didn't have the same sensation when viewing it online or catching a little thing. It was encouraging. Don't get me wrong. It was like, yes. And it was something that I could show the church and say, look, this is something like, this isn't it maybe, but this is something like what we all long for. So that was cool. That it was shocking to me because I thought I would just be glued to the tube and just watching every second of every service. And that may be like after dinner's over, you go back for seconds and leftovers, whatever still remains. You're gonna mop that up. I may do that still, but at current, I want the fresh, which to me just kind of speaks about how upside down and backwards I've viewed life and ministry. Like, how to get it out there on all the socials and do it just right. How to, because I'm just like you guys, or our church is very much like you guys. Wouldn't identify ourselves as Word of Faith folks, but we definitely have some Holy Spirit moments where he goes off script and he colors outside the lines, is what I call it. And people, we struggle to contain that or to properly express that in what may be publicly consumed online. It's it's seemingly very intimate, just like what you were saying. It's very intimate. It seems like it's tailor-made for the moment. It's just from God to Susie, because we are a small church. It's just a conversation between him and Felix, and he may share that out with the congregation, but it's not necessarily for worldwide consumption. And so to see that, to see what's going on, it's kind of reoriented me to say, oh, it is practical. When God shows up, word of mouth is still, for me, still primary.
Yeah.
When God encounters his people and their testimony goes racing out person to person across the globe, that's still the most, that's what you want.
Right.
That's the most powerful one. Second, if we happen to have a camera on, we could leave it on and allow the world to see the messy side, the side where he colors outside the lines a little bit more, because that seems to be what was emphasized. I don't remember any spectacular sermons coming out of there. Nobody got up and proclaimed. I mean, they did. They shared the gospel from time to time, but nobody got up and, as Jesse would say, prot. I don't remember any sermons that they prot.
Yep.
Anyway, but so leaving the camera on, harnessing social media, but really just letting God do what he wants to do, has reoriented me and reset me. And then you said something about just that whole idea of how God is, he's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore.
Right.
But he does a new thing and something different every time.
And not everything that the Holy Spirit does can be explained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you had mentioned, I don't want to have to deal with all the Karens, of the church.
Right. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the church Karens.
Right. The church Karens. But in a way, I think God's dealing with the Karens.
I think so too. But I think he's always done that. I mean, he's always done that. I've been going back through and watching The Chosen again. We're doing that with our home group. And, you get back in on like Nicodemus, and you can look at them and say, yeah, they were church Karens. But all of a sudden, when something that they can't explain, but the fruit of what was experienced is the fruit of the Spirit, it is of God, all of a sudden you have to question it. And to me, when you start to question it, it's not that we question God, we question our own understanding. We question our own interpretation. And it's like, is God doing something that I don't understand? Likely that's the case, because I don't understand what he understands. His ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are greater than my thoughts. But what is it producing? Where is it leading people to? And that's the thing with me is, anytime I see something in a different vein of Christianity, a different denomination, I hate the thought of denominations. Like, we should not be of Apollos and Cephas and Methodists and, Baptists and Word of Faithers and Charismatics and Pentecostals and Lutherans. And no, we should be of Jesus. That's who we are. We're Christians. And so we should be that first. But also understanding, if we're Christians, we're Christ-like, and we are trying to be like him. We ought to be like him. So it's often our understanding. And that's the other thing with this is, I mean, I don't even know, and I don't even care what theology that they're really using in Asbury. I don't know what denominational background they have. I don't care. What I saw was of God. What I saw was pointing people to Christ. What I saw was encouraging and uplifting and edifying and building his kingdom. So to me, it was like, I don't care. Because if there's something that I disagree with, like theologically that they say, whatever, or bibliology, it's like, I don't care. I'm a big boy. I know how to chew the meat off the bones, but not the bones. So I'm going to chew that meat. I'm going to toss the bones. Like, I don't care. I mean, ideally, I like my spicy nugs. I like the boneless wings, so I don't have to go through the bone. But at the same time, if there's a bone, I'm still going to eat it.
That is a nugget, good sir. No, I think you have something, because the timing, and I know you haven't seen this movie, but the timing is eerie in this outpouring that happens in Asbury. And the release of this, was it Jesus Revolution movie? Yeah. It's eerie in that how it calls back. This has been produced years in the making type of a thing, but how it calls back to this Jesus People movement and of young people really, and how it's not like what the church expected, and how the movements of God are never like the church expects, and it is of God and from God and for God. And then there's a time where the people start to say, hey, that doesn't look like, you know, it's just a part of how these things evolve. And I find it fascinating, totally fascinating, that God is using what I would term a more traditional outpouring in Asbury.
Yeah.
It is able to be digested and accepted by the majority of the church. We as brothers and sisters can look at that and go, "Oh yeah, man. I
Yep.
mean, that's the Lord. It's repentance. It's worship. It's pure. There are even some little nuggets for the charismatics and the Pentecostals and the Word of Faith to
Yep.
hop in and go, oh look, there's demons being cast out. Oh look,
Yeah.
there's healings coming. Oh look, there's some prophecy mixed in there, but enough that you know, mainline body can go, no, not really. That was some weird stuff that happened outside. It was the you know,
Right.
but in the same time, you have this Jesus revolution that accentuates the movie. It accentuates that kind of dichotomy there
Yeah.
of like, there's this word that comes forward, and there's this, you know, this spirit that's present, but then it gets a little crazy, and
Yeah.
God colors outside the lines a little bit. And I think it's interesting how man wants to put a box around it, just like what you said. We want to put a box around it, and we want to kick people out or color people in. And God just goes, oh, he just
Yeah.
breathes on a situation, and we are scrambling to keep up. And you know what? In 100 years, we'll probably write new theology around it, to be honest. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, God breathes, we react. It's
Yep.
kind of how it's always been.
Amen.
It's just fun to be alive in this moment, watching it, going, "Oh, cool!
Right.
Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, Lord!"
Yeah.
It's
Now,
reset
along
my ministry.
Oh yeah. Now along the lines of it's cool to be alive during this moment and see what God is doing. We both made videos to pivot into the next topic about artificial intelligence. Like, we're seeing the impact that social media had with Asbury, and God would have done his thing, and he'll use anything with that. But he was able to use social media in that way. What are your thoughts on how God is and could be and maybe will be utilizing artificial intelligence for building his kingdom?
Oh, I think artificial intelligence is doing a great thing that everybody sees as a negative. You know, that it's taking away jobs, and it's able to work at a factor of, yeah, you know, several times
Right.
the speed at which we think. And that's scary and intimidating, but it's almost like a workload off.
Yeah.
When we really boil it down, I mean, do we want to work harder for the sake of working harder, or do we want to
Work harder or
have
work smarter?
it work smarter, or it not even just from a human side of like, maybe we could focus in on the things that matter, especially pastors and spiritual leaders out there. Maybe we could focus on hope and inspiration, things that AI is not necessarily.
Yeah.
It has a code, it has an understanding and a worldview that's being informed by the collective of, you know, humanity and other machines, and it has to learn in that system. We could feed into what this world is missing. We could bring in hope, inspiration, spirit language, because AI is not going to be able to come up with all of that stuff.
Right.
As we saw in our videos, like, it's close, it can mimic,
Yeah.
but it has no idea. It can't go off the tracks, off the rails of what it knows and has pulled from other articles or beliefs or system. It has no idea, real-time revelation from the Lord, and we could infuse that.
Yeah.
We could infuse that like crazy. It can quote the Bible, it can quote a pastor, but it can't come up with new like
Right.
that.
And for those that may be listening to this and thinking, okay, what are you even talking about? What is this artificial intelligence? And they have
that
they
might
have
help.
no clue. I would say there's really like three main ones that are out there that are being utilized right now. You've got ChatGPT, probably the most popular. Then there's Jasper AI that people are using. It is primarily a paid service, and Microsoft is now starting to roll out Bing, and it's their new Bing, and it has a bunch of that. It's web search, but then you have the AI chatbot next to it. And to simplify this, artificial intelligence, AI, it is essentially just a chatbot. And you've all seen these chatbots. You've went online to like go pay your bill, and you have a question, and then you pop chat right now, and it pops up this little window, and you type, and you're like, there's not even a human here. It's giving me these automatically generated responses. Yes, that's AI. It's an AI chatbot. What we are seeing currently, especially with ChatGPT, is it's an AI chatbot on crack. Like, this thing is exploded. And what it is essentially doing is reaching out based on your question, searching all of the data that it has compiled, which is a vast majority that's found on the internet. I believe ChatGPT only goes through so many years, and they don't have a lot of the more recent stuff. Right. But it searches that phrase that you've questioned. Based on that phrase, what are the other web searches, queries that have that exact phrase in? And based on how we phrase it, what could they possibly be looking at for an answer? And then based on the information out there, what is the most likely response to their question? And that's what they send you back, only in a conversational format, which we've never really seen before. With Google, we're used to asking it whatever we feel like, and it just gives us, 1.3 million search results that we have to filter through. And it starts ranking them by the most accurate one. What ChatGPT is essentially doing, and these other AIs, is they're doing the same thing that Google has been doing for decades, only they're actually giving you a written out response rather than the link to go see it yourself. And that's where the new Bing, from my understanding on it, I've got access, I just haven't used it yet. It's doing both. So it's giving you the search, but it's also giving you a conversation, and in the conversation, it gives you the references. So that's essentially what it's doing. My thoughts, and I'm wondering, what are our thoughts on this? How could, or maybe how should, us as small church pastors specifically be utilizing this for ministry purposes? Are you using it all, Jarrod, for anything you guys are doing?
Not ministry related. I do use it for market research. I use it a lot for discovering target audiences and how other people are targeting that target audience, and how best to do it in different spheres. Like, how would you, rather than me spending the mental capacity to say, how would I target landscapers, clients? Yeah. Who is a landscaper's client? Auto populates, a demographic. Okay, how would you target them with social media posts? What would be your plan? And so I've really taken out some of the thinking, Autobot think. Yeah.
Well, but we would do that ourselves, because everything we do, we have to learn, right? Even with our sermons, it's not like God has poured, the moment that he called us to be a pastor, it's not like he poured out his infinite wisdom inside our minds so that every Sunday we could give up unprepared and just preach whatever he says. Are there times that happens? Yes, but typically that's because of what he's already, and by he, I'm saying the Holy Spirit, who teaches us all things, brings back to our remembrance these things. It's what he's already planted in our heart, that we've hidden that word in our heart, that he brings back so that we can minister to. But on a week-by-week basis, most pastors are studying. They're grabbing their Bible, they're reading it, they're checking their commentaries, they're checking other resources that they have, maybe books on this subject. Their modern pastors are often doing a Google search for whether it be an illustration or a story, or maybe it's specific quotes that they're looking for. So we're already doing a lot of that. What this is doing is, for you, yes, it's taking the thinking out of it. I look at it as, and I use this analogy at church when I was explaining it to somebody. Growing up, maybe you went through, I'm not going to assume because of your age, we're close in age, but you're just a hair younger than me. Do you remember going to the school library, and there was the librarian back there?
Oh, I know what you're going to do.
You would ask a question, and she would take you over to the card catalog system and pull it out and flip through, and then you've got all these books that you need to go look through. Or if there was a newspaper article, she would take you to the microfiche system, where you had to put in the little slides and you start filtering through to try to find it. AI is essentially the librarian, but It's the librarian that instead of taking you, Google is the librarian that takes you and says, go look here and read it for yourself. AI is the librarian that says, hey, I already went over here. Here's what it says. The only problem is with ChatGPT specifically, they don't show you and reference where they actually got it from. And that is an issue, I think, when we want to be with accuracy, we need to be able to do that. So that's where I'm using it for my sermons. Like almost every week, I'm using it for sermons and been doing that since late fall, around Thanksgiving time. Maybe it was even before that. And I'm using it, and I'm essentially, I did the video about it, and it's pretty much the same thing. Hey, write me a sermon based on this passage with this main point in mind, and then enter. And I take what it spits out, and I look at it, and there's a whole lot of bones. There's just a little bit of meat on the bone, and I grab that little bit of meat, and then I refine it, and I ask it another question, and maybe it's more refined, like, okay, give me a 3-point sermon based on that. Okay, give me a sermon in the style of Andy Stanley with the Me, We, God, You, We format. And it spits all that stuff out. Then I take it, I go back to my scriptures, I make sure that what I thought was meat is actually meat, that it comes from the Word, and it is theologically sound. And then once I've kind of got all that, then I'm praying over it, and it's like, okay, is this the direction we're heading, God, or not? I will say it has drastically saved my time with preparing sermons, and especially with, some family health issues that have been going on lately. Like, I needed that extra time. I desperately needed that extra time, and that's where it's been beneficial. Now, as that starts to free up, here's where my thinking comes in. If I've got this extra time, if it saved me from doing a lot of the heavy lifting, instead of going to my 5 different commentaries and, my Strong's, which I still go to my Strong's Concordance, but instead of doing all that stuff for me, I've got this extra time now. What can I do with this extra time to help my church, to help my ministry? I'm thinking maybe ChatGPT could help me in creating, I don't know, like small group or home group discussion guides based on that sermon that I just had it populate. And now with just a few extra minutes of work that have already been freed up, now I have something that I could hand out to the small group, home group leaders that if they wanted to, they can expand off of. Or I could say, based on this, give me 10 extra scriptures that reinforce this point. And it's going to spit back those results, and that could be a handout. Or maybe write me a devotional, like a 10-day devotional based on this, or a 30-day devotional based on this. I'm seeing there being the potential for us as small church pastors who have a limited staff to use artificial intelligence to be like some of the staff that isn't as theologically sound as necessarily we are, but they're going to spit back a lot of ideas that we would have to filter anyways and say, this is good, but it's not quite where it needs to be. We just need to do a slight modification. I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential to save us as ministry leaders time while also expanding the impact that our ministry can have. What do you think?
Oh, no. Here's where I'm gonna venture out in a different direction. Just my own preference. Right. This is not any sort of judgment on you or anybody else who's listening. This is just my own personal.
Take it as judgment.
It is not.
Judgerton.
I have no dog in this fight. I who knows if it edifies you and you're getting a lot out of it, go for it. Go nuts. Personally speaking, I don't want that. I don't want ChatGPT to be my librarian. What I do like, I'll tell you what I do like first. I do like the idea that it can handle all the mundane tasks. I don't want to have to look for everything. I want it to bring it to me quickly. I like that part. Right. I don't want to I don't have to scour the internet. I don't have to scour all the resources to have it brought to me. That part I love.
Yeah.
I just love having Holy Spirit be my librarian, because I think that's part of the exchange. The hours spent in research and development, right. The time being chiseled away. And I'm not even a big, I don't spend hours and hours behind the desk or at the table chiseling away at a sermon. That's not my style. But I do know there's a devotional lifestyle where he's calling upon things inside of me that he needs access to. And I don't know if I was brand new into this, I was brand new into being a minister, and I relied totally upon ChatGPT or the like to call forth information. I think I would have missed out on being bathed in the Word, and I'd just be expectant that
100%.
where would I find the source? Because you and I know that sometimes this ChatGPT comes back with a lot of bones, and you have to do a lot of bones. What we ancient ones do whenever we go on Twitter. We have to check how long ago was that fact published, how long ago was that resource, is it still current, does it still apply, those types of things. So we have to do our due diligence. And I think the temptation with ChatGPT and the others for me is just to take it at face value and run with it. And I really wouldn't want to get too dependent upon that for myself. I want Holy Spirit to I like this, basically I like the system I've got going on, but I really hear you on the maybe making up some devotionals or some some fill in the blank type stuff that would help them follow along. Just the mundane stuff that doesn't require any sort of spiritual input. It's just kind of expanding the reach. I would like it for that, not so much for my personal devotional study, diving into the Word, crafting a sermon, just for me.
So, and that's where two thoughts along those lines. One, I don't use it for my own personal devotional or study on that. I mean, because I've got my sermon prep and then my devotional study, and they're kind of in separate veins. A lot of the sermon prep comes from that devotional time. That's where I'm getting, here's where we're headed. So I'm not saying, hey, ChatGPT, give me a sermon for this Sunday. I don't know what to preach. I'm sure somebody could do that and it would work. I'm not doing that, but I will to play advocate on here, and I'm not going to say devil's advocate, but to give you the full picture of this. So if I were to look at pre-AI, my sermon prep, I would say that my separating the meat from the bones, so to speak, that was probably less than 10% of the time that I spent on my sermon. And I would get in on one day in about 6 hours. I could have the whole thing like 90% done and didn't have to do any of that separation. Typically it was more like 8 hours throughout, because it'd be mostly one day, a little bit the next day, and then I'm done for the week. But there wasn't much separation. And that separation that I had wasn't even necessarily separating the meat from the bone. It was more just refining it, maybe trimming the fat off of it, so to speak. Now with ChatGPT, I would say it's probably closer to like 30, maybe even 40% that I'm doing the separating the meat from the bone, but there's less fat that I'm having to trim off. And so it's an odd give and take. And that's where I don't think it's for everybody necessarily. I think that there are ways that it can be beneficial for ministry, especially as we've seen, it is a time saver. And the mundane tasks are really huge. For me, and here's where it's really helped in this recent time, because, for those that didn't know, my grandma's been having some health issues, and she's my assistant pastor. She's the one that does a lot of that pastoral care. She's been out of commission with that, so that's all come back on me. And that's not my wheelhouse. That takes a lot more energy for me to do that. So that's where it has helped, because it's freed me up that time that I can devote a little bit more to that. Without that, man, I don't know. I'd be leaving people hanging, and they'd be like, oh, where's my pastor at?
No, I totally get that, because for me, as you're aware, on Fridays we have Rev tables, what we call it. So we'll have the meeting of the staff and the meeting of the minds, and we've all kind of been in a shared text throughout the week. What's the Lord been saying to you, and you? What has He been showing you in your studies? And so we kind of go around, and that's my version of the ChatGPT thing. It's from trusted sources who have been, grinding this thing out throughout the week.
Yeah, and you've got multiple librarians right at your disposal there.
Multiple, and the thing is, I could trust it because they have been seeking the Lord on this, and the Holy Spirit's been refining that.
They've got proven ministries.
for my use case, it wouldn't be as valuable for the sermon prep, but I can totally see if I was by myself,
Yeah.
I just need somebody to bounce it off of, because I wouldn't be able, like you're saying, I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
get the sermon prep in, my own devotional, family life, side hustle that you inevitably are going to have if you're a small church pastor, your
Yeah.
side hustle going on, and the ministry care for the folks. There's just, you might as well send it off into the abyss and see what comes back, just to spark the juices to
Yep. Well, and
get
here's
it
the
going.
other thing I think it can be very helpful is thinking outside of the box. So I was even thinking, like, what if I was an itinerant minister? What if I was a traveling, an evangelist, whatever? What am I going to do to help support that ministry? Well, you could ask ChatGPT, hey, what are like the top 10 ways that a itinerant minister could supplement their income with ministry? And it's likely going to give you back some really good responses.
Yeah.
You want to call an audible and let's check it?
Go for it.
I wonder. I'm just sitting here thinking,
Oh my
GPT. Nobody knew that we were going this way this week. Let's
might as well.
Let's continue with Google.
I am interested in that Bing side of things. I want to see.
I haven't
how
even played
Bing
with
is-
Bing, so we'll do.
I saw a video the other day that they were saying, "Hey, this is going to change things."
What are 10 ways that we'll do traveling minister could supplement their income with ministry? And let's see live. What is, now it's,
Thanks, Dustin.
As an AI language model, I cannot value judgments or provide financial advice. However, I can suggested ways. So speaking engagements.
Suggest a way.
Yes,
there
that
we go.
would be one. They're already doing that. But they could also do other services as public speaker, talking about their faith and their ministry. Counseling services. Yep. Retreats and workshops. Yep. Books and publications. Yeah. A lot of those are already being done. But how about online courses and webinars? Church consulting. Here's something for those traveling ministers. I've had traveling ministers do that with us, and I've asked them a lot of times, you're traveling around the country. You're seeing all these different churches. What did you see at our church that we're not doing that we could or should do? Like you're seeing at other churches that works for them. What do we need? Weddings, funerals. Yep, often you can do that. Merchandise sales, such as T-shirts, CDs. Who uses a CD? Other merchandise. There's a lot of those itinerant ministers that they sell entire teaching series and stuff like that. Missions trip. A minister can organize and lead a missions trip to others and charge a fee for participations.
Unpopular take here. This is where I think ChatGPT and AI is limited, because they're going to draw from the resources that are already known, right? And this is what
Correct.
pastors already do. But what they don't catch is the cultural element of this. So if you showed up, and this may be different in your stream, but if you were in mine and you showed up at the table and you were like offering funeral services, to anybody in need, or and that's just one, or book,
Right.
There's a merch table back in the back, come support my ministry. That has been a frustration point in the church for a while, not that it should be or shouldn't be. It's just a cultural thing that, like, hey, listen, dude, you itinerant pastor who's traveling around selling your merch and your gear and your wares and your online courses and your webinars and things like that. Just come in here and preach the gospel. It's a sensitive thing of mixing the two, which we've talked about in the past, even on our channels. It's like, do we charge for that sort of stuff, or do you not charge for? Because I mean, it is the way that you make an income. It is how you're gifted, but at the same time, people tend to frown upon that, and ChatGPT is not going to pick up on those nuances.
It's not going to pick, and that's where we're saying that you do have to do some of that filtration. You do have to pick out the bones and stuff. So that's something that you'd have to do. You'd have to check, your vein of Christianity. In ours, we do merch all the time. We've got traveling ministers, and traveling ministers are typically bringing something with them. Now, some of them, it's just information about them, but that's fine. If you go to a church and they're like, hey, we don't want you setting up a booth and selling a bunch of things, That doesn't mean you still can't have all of those things to sell, but just host them on your own website. So if somebody wants to connect with your ministry, because most churches, I mean, they'll at least let you set up just some information if you want to stay connected. And if not, if somebody walks up and they're like, hey, have you got anything else out there, or how can I keep in contact with you? Just name value alone that you showed up and you preached might do it. And for me, when I looked at the funeral services, I'm thinking in your local home, if you're not traveling in that local area, how about reaching out to the churches? Because there's a lot of unchurched people that don't have, people that can do weddings and funerals. And so maybe getting a hold of some of the local venues and saying, hey, if somebody doesn't necessarily have a church home to do their wedding, I'm offering Christian wedding services, which includes premarital counseling, whatever, how you want to add with it. But my thought is, and there's a real life example. You can just ask it and it'll give you back a conversational answer. You then have to filter it. And like Jarrod was saying, it's only based on the knowledge that is already out there. It doesn't deal with context very well, other than the context of the current conversation. So if I were to say, hey, give me 5 more, it'll spit out 5 more. But that's something that I think there's potential there. What would your recommendation be? Like, if you could summarize it in like a 1 paragraph, I'm not going to give you a 1 sentence because I know you can't do it. A 1 paragraph recommendation for other small church pastors that are maybe asking the question, okay, Jarrod, artificial intelligence. Should I be looking into this or paying attention to it, or just ignore it? What's your response?
Absolutely look into it. Don't be afraid of it. Harness its power. Don't let it become your everything. There's about 4 sentences. There you go.
And I have nothing to add to that. That last line is complete fire. It is the greatest line you could have said. Don't let it be your everything. And that would be the one thing when I'm using it. Like I said, I'm using it almost weekly. I am using ChatGPT weekly. Most weeklies for the sermons. But it's not my everything. I'm coming in with what God gave me. I'm using it to try to cultivate a vast amount of information, and then I'm taking it back to him and saying, are we on the right path? Am I off? And by we, I mean me, myself, and I. Am I on the right path? Am I heading in the right direction? Or has ChatGPT steered me down the wrong path? And if so, recenter. And there was at least 1 or 2 in the last 6 months or so that as I started putting it together, it was like, man, this just doesn't feel right. And so I went back to like the initial prompt that I gave it. And it's like, oh, wait, we're completely off base. That's not the direction I was heading in at all. So yes, don't let it be your everything. But it can be a very powerful tool.
Absolutely.
Well, Jarrod, I know that you told me, and I've got it here somewhere in this little ticker. You told me something in this ticker.
Hey, let's look and see what Dustin's talking about. He says, I like merch, live by faith, sell some stuff, and help out your fellow Christian ministers. If I say, selling your merch in the back, sometimes people have a killer book that they've written that like, get up there and push that puppy. That thing was life-saving or life-changing. Right. Give it away or something. I don't care what you do, but let people know about that. That kind of stuff's different. It's just like, hey, I'm a 2-time Dove winning artist, and you can pick up my merch back there in the back. There's a little ditty. Here's a little song that nobody knows that we're going to get into here in just a second. Fresh off the presses. Like, come on, man. Like, nobody cares about all that. Just play the song. Let's get into worship. Let's go.
I don't like them shilling their stuff from the pulpit. What I prefer in that sense, and we've done this when somebody comes in, it's like, I don't want you to promote necessarily your stuff. Tell me what you've got. I'll promote it for you. I'll tell them if they want more information, they can also pick up this resource. They can do that. It's right over here on the table. So that way, like, I like when they do that, especially if it's got value. And I understand that some people are going to have different value than others. You get to the teens aren't going to, like, if I had a book that was How to Live by Faith, teens aren't going to buy that book. The adults are going to buy that book. But you know what the teens are going to buy? They're going to buy one of these.
Yeah. Dude, so along those lines, I aged out in this whole conversation of harnessing social media and AI. They got me this weekend. So we had a group of students come up from Baylor, and they're helping Dave out on the farm. They're cutting down limbs from the pecan grove and whatnot, and helping us out. And so I wanted to connect with one of them because I was going to leave my truck behind, and we were headed off to lunch. And I said, "Hey man, what's your number? I'm going to leave my keys in the truck. If you need me for anything, call me." And he goes, "No, just hit me up on Soch." I was like, "What is? Yeah, which one? What does that mean? What does that mean, son?" And he goes, "Just hit me up on Soch." And I'm like, "Yes." How would you like me to hit you up on Soch? And he goes, "Oh, you must not work with a lot of college students." I'm like, "No, I guess not. I don't know what hit you up on Soch." He goes, just bump my snap." And I'm like, "Bump your snap?" I don't. Number one, I don't have Snap. Number two, I wouldn't know how to bump your snap. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I've officially aged out.
Okay, boomer.
I have a phone number that I'm trying to plug it. He goes, "Never mind. Let me have your phone." And he starts typing in the number. Like, "You're welcome. Sometimes I like to give advice on social media usage online, so I'm there." I gotta get back into it. So yeah. I'm gonna get my Snap rolling and bump people's snaps, hit them up on Soch.
Yep. Well, we did have several in the chat today. It was awesome to see Dustin Damesworth hanging out. John was here for a bit, saying minimal shenanigans for him today. He was at an off-site meeting where we're at lunch now. Jason Remster giving a wave, and then the older brother Dustin saying he'll pick up the shenanigans.
He'll handle it. He's more than capable.
Jason was saying, "I was going to send a cup of coffee, but I didn't see the link under the description." Yeah, we, Jarrod and I need to figure out what we're doing on that stuff.
Jarrod and I, nothing. Jarrod's right there. You can send him a coffee anytime you want to. But
Joshua's all over the place. Joshua doesn't know what he's doing at any given point in time. He created
Ko-Fi,
18 more buckets. Now, I don't know what I'm doing. We'll figure that out. But thanks for letting me know that we didn't have it in the description below. Oh, hey, look at that. The ticker. It says, Jarrod told Joshua not to mention January 6th.
Hey, look. Let's take one more. My ribs are healed. Time to send some ribs elsewhere. Bwahaha.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, just ribbing y'all. Mm-hmm. Ribs are close to the funny bone.
Ribs have bones.
They kind of are, yeah. Preach it, Johnny number 5. What? Joshua?
I don't know that one.
And Wayne does not want to. Wayne Riz in the house. Wayne doesn't want to bump anything. I'm just not going to say anything about bumping anything.
I know. My wife I was like, "Get your head out of the gutter,
because I will get myself in trouble more than mentioning January 6th. Which Jarrod says we can't mention. I'm not supposed to mention January 6th.
You can mention January 6th
this week
if you want to.
I think Jarrod and I
better be ready for the response.
Quick question, Jarrod. At the beginning, you mentioned earlier, you mentioned the Jesus Revolution movie. Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
I have not. So this weekend, I'm going to go watch it. And then I think maybe next weekend, let's talk about Jesus Revolution. For all of you guys that are joining us live and in the chat or listening to the audio replay, you can catch us here next Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Central Time. We want you in the chat because we want to hear your takes on Jesus Revolution. And we've been doing like 2 topics a week. So I think next week is Jesus Revolution and
don't you do it to me.
January 6th. We'll see how much trouble we can get in on the Vlogpasters.
Kicked off in 30 seconds.
Anything else you want to talk about, Jarrod?
No.
All right. Well, until next week, stay blessed, enjoy God's best. Vlogpasters out.